Alright guys, in this video what I want to do is kind of overview the marketing section. Before I get started again, in the marketing I want to emphasize using the help that's available to you. Good place to do this is under help and support. And then you get the team member guide, you get some tutorials and demos, which is going to take you through some videos or some just walking you through things, or you can get some information overview of these. They've got a whole bunch of things here that you can watch and read to help you here. Also under help and support, you get frequently asked questions, which is going to be broken down by areas. And these are questions that they see, CAPSIM sees regularly. And these are also questions that over the semesters I've probably seen pretty much all of these at one point or another. So this is a good place to get your questions answered. And for CAPSIM. Alright, so to make decisions, we go into our decisions, we go into our launch web spreadsheet. I've got some draft positions out there where I was playing around with it, with making some videos, so I'm just going to continue with my draft. Alright, then we go into decisions. We're going to go into marketing. Now once here you can get some help. There's some help menu that takes you to some of the areas that I've already showed you. The online help, the manager's guide to support takes you to the support page for CAPSIM if you're having some technical issues or if you even have some questions on how things work. Then you can get your official decisions. You can get an audit trail to see who's been entering in data and uploading it and updating it, and then you can get what the balance scorecard is. And then the balance scorecard is something that you need to understand because that's how you're being ranked as a team. Alright, if we do coach. Coach is going to take us to a marketing tutorial that will help out also. Alright, so what are we trying to do in marketing? Well, marketing's got 4 big areas. And then there's a minor area that we got to do. The 4 big areas is that you need to concentrate on that's going to have some major impacts on how successful your team is we got to decide what price we're going to charge. We got to decide on our promotion budget, our sales budget, and I'm going to show you where these have an effect at. And then we're going to have to make our sales forecast. Okay? So let's first get into our price. How do we know what price to charge? Well, when we go to our fast track report, and this is going to be the report where we get most of your analysis done, so I'd get really familiar with this report. And we go under the buying criteria for the customer, so this is page 5 of the report for the low-tech segment analysis, and then on the high-tech one is page 6 right after this. They want a price of $15 to $35. Now, that saying the customer's always right is not always true. If you try to price your products at $15, then you're not going to do very well here. It allows you to price it below what it costs you to make it. And so therefore you're going to be losing money even though you may be selling a whole bunch of them. Alright. And so what you got to do is kind of fill out what the competitors are going to do. What price do I need to charge to make a profit? And then what is the competitors doing? If everybody's charging a high price at $35, then there's no need for you to charge $30 unless you think that you can dominate this market so well at $30 that it's going to be worth missing out on that $5 per unit price. Okay? So price is an important one. Now one way that you can play around with these to see what effect these 4 items, see what effect, well 3, the price, the promo budget, sales budget, to see what effect they have, they give you this item called a benchmark forecast. Now one thing I want to emphasize on this benchmark forecast right here is it's not accurate. Alright? If I would not use this as my benchmark because what it does, it estimates, it's a good thing to useful for budgeting and to see what happens with your demand when you change price, promo, and sales budgets, but it's not very good at forecasting. The reason that is because it assumes that everybody is the same and everybody is average. And so you're going to have some companies that are a lot better than others. And so this sales forecast I would not use it. It may give you a good ballpark. It may give you a good starting point, but more times than not, it's not going to be something that you want to use. All right. So how do I use it then, and why is it there? Well, let's take a what-if analysis is what it's good for. All right. Right now we're at $34 with our promo budget and our sales budget at $1,000, which is really $1 million each. Then we're going to sell 1.122 million units. Again, it shows 1,000, but this is in millions. If I multiply $34 per every unit that we sold, if we sold this many, if this is how much we end up doing, remember this is a forecast, not actuality, it's not actuals. But if this is the case, and you do the 34 times the 1,122, then you get somewhere around 148. Remember, this is in millions. That's your revenue. Now you may say, okay, what happens if I change this to 35? Well, we hit this recalculate. We see that this goes down to 1065. So then I take my what if and I do the 35 times the 1065 and I multiply these and I get 37,275. Well, remember at $34 we sold 1,122 or 1,122,000 units. And this gave us a 38,148. So here we see that with a dollar price difference, we're getting a little bit less revenue by increasing the increasing the price by $1 per unit. But we're going to get a lot higher contribution margins. Okay? Contribution margins here. And this is something we did under situation analysis, and this is something that's very important that you need to keep track of. Because that contribution margins is going to lead to profit levels, income. And if this contribution margin's low, then you're going to have a hard time making profits. Okay? The big thing when you're trying to make these decisions is not always try to be the number one in market share, the number one in sales, or get so caught up in the balanced scorecard. What you're trying to do is, and usually when most teams are behind or not doing so well, then what's happening is, first two things you need to look at is sales. Don't have to be the highest, but you need to be in the ballpark. Okay, you got to be close to everybody else. Okay? And then you got to look at your profits. What is my return on sales? What is my contribution margin? Are these close to everybody else? And so therefore is my profits good? I've seen teams before that one team would have like 100 million in sales, but then they would only have, we'll say, 5 million in profits. And then we would have another team come down here and have $75 million in sales, and they'd have $10 million in profits. And generally, by the balanced scorecard, if this happened round after round, this team here would be the one succeeding the most. Remember, don't lose sight of, we've got to have sales, at least in the ballpark, and we got to make profits as a company. The more profits you make, the more money you have for your shareholders, the higher your stock price is going to be. Pretty much everything in the balanced scorecard is going to be based off these two. Now, if you got two teams that are close, then in the balanced scorecard will work. Okay? So, that's how we're going to do price. We got to keep these things in mind. What do we need to do with our price to get our sales and profits? You don't want just sales, because that can lead to low profits if you lower your price too much. And this is a good thing to play around with a lot in the practice rounds. Play with it in rehearsal rounds. Lower your prices down. See what happens. and that will help you out on better understanding. Now we've got this thing called a promotion budget and a sales budget. I'm going to go back to our reports, and if you look at the low-tech, page 5, and we look down here, we've got our promotion budget right here, and we got this thing called customer awareness. The promo budget affects, the promotion budget affects this customer awareness. Promotion budget is just as it sounds. It's promoting your product. And the more you promote it, the more customers are going to be aware of it. Alright. We start out, everybody starts out at 55%. This means that 55% of the customers knows that my product is available. So if I'm able, or Team Andrews with product able, then 55% of the customers know able, but 45% it does not. I'm going to let you in on a hint. This is way too low. Okay. And so what you got to do is go in the team member guide and figure out how does these budgets work. One thing I'm going to tell you is that if I put in a promotion budget of $1.4 million, all that's going to do is that's going to maintain my customer awareness at 55%. I've got to get above $1.4 million for it to have any effect on there. If I get greater than $3 million, so if I put in $3.2 million, then I'm wasting my money. Because when you read in the team member guide, $3 million maxes out the effect. So make sure you read that about the promo budget, how it works. Right? The sales budget works the same way. Different numbers on the minimum and the maximum. So read through that and let me know if you've got any questions. But very similar. And there's a lot of good information under help for that also. But what we're going to do is let's talk about what the sales budget does for us. Now what the sales budget is doing for us and it's right here, is it has to do with customer accessibility. Now your company is really a business to business. Okay, so we're running a business to business company, not to end customers. But the way to think about this is if I was selling to customers, this is the percentage of stores that carries our products, that carry sensors, would carry it. So right now we're at 40%. That means that there's a 40% chance that if a customer went into the store, that store would carry it. In other words, there's a 60% chance that if the customer goes into the store, that store will not carry it. Again, as with the promo, way too low. So you need to really increase your sales budget to bring this up. Alright? And so it works very similar as the promo budget to there's a minimum amount and then there's a maximum, so you can read through the guide and get that out. Alright. Now our sales forecast, this is very important because this is going to be, and this is a good way to go through your forecasting. Forecasting is the hardest part of this game, or this simulation. Right? It is the hardest thing to kind of get a grasp of. The better your team can forecast, the easier it's going to be to make all your other decisions in the other areas. If you're missing your forecast by a lot, then you're either going to be missing out on potential profits. So if I predict that we're going to sell 1,200 and we really could have sold 1,500, then you've missed out on a lot of profits. So you don't want to forecast too low, because that hurts your company as bad, not as bad, but it hurts your company as well as missing your forecast too high. I think we're going to sell 2,000, we only sell 1,500, then I don't have a lot of inventory. I don't have a lot of cost of producing these sensors, but no revenue to come in. And that's where a lot of teams get emergency loan on, because they missed their forecast. So what you want to do is go down through here. This is a good way to kind of get how we get our forecast. In the early rounds, you want to be kind of conservative. You don't want to get too aggressive until you kind of fill out the other teams, kind of fill out the simulation and see what's going on. And then as we get in the competitive rounds and also later in the competitive rounds, you probably start getting more narrowed down of how your forecast comes about. Okay. And where that number should be. But this is the forecast is something that I would really concentrate on doing and really going through how do I forecast. Now I want to go down through kind of one of the methods is kind of what I call the historical method of forecasting. When you come down here to on the fast track report, you get this market share report. Now this market share report has got, I'm going to say that I'm Team Andrews, okay? And what it's got is got how many of low tech was demanded in the previous round, so round 0 or the round of the report, and how many was demanded in high tech. Right. As able, we got 16.7, which is 1/5 of the 1/6 of the market, and we got 16.7 in the high tech. As the simulation starts going on, these numbers are going to change by who's got better products, who's trying to get higher profit margins for different reasons. All right. And so one of the methods is take your current market share. All right. So we're at 16.7%, and I'm just going to do low tech. Okay. And we've got 5,040 in round 0. In round 0. Now in round 1, this is going to increase by 10% for low tech, 20% for high tech. All right. So we need to multiply this by, there's a couple ways you can do it, but one of the things that you can do is multiply it by 1.1. And if you don't understand why I got 1.1 and how that works out, then give me a call when we can discuss it. Another way you multiply it times 10%, get that number and add it back in. Alright? And so when I multiply this times 1.1, then I get 5,544 units for round 1. Okay. So I take 5,544 and I multiply this times the 16.7%, and I get 925.8. So I'm just going to say round it up to 926 units. Remember, this is in thousands, so it's really 926,000 units that I'm going to be selling in the low tech. Okay? And then I'll do the same thing for the high tech. Since I've only got one product, then it's got to sell in the high tech, low tech. And then what I want to do is take my 16.7 and say, I'm really improving my product compared to everybody else, so I may get 17% in round 1. Or I'm raising the price, so I may only get 16.3. Okay? And so you want to make adjustments of this, either up or down, or keep it the same until you kind of get a feel. One thing you do not want to do on your forecast is you're not going to go from 16.7 to 21%, a 5% jump, unless one of the other companies makes a bad mistake. Okay. So that's how we're going to forecast. This is something as a team I would really concentrate on, is getting this forecast and learning how to do it, reading through the help menu, because the forecast is going to be one of the key things that if your company can get that down, it's really going to help. Okay. Alright, let me know if you got any questions on the marketing, and good luck on it.